There are seasons in life when the visible world tells one story while heaven is quietly writing another. The circumstances around you may seem ordinary, disappointing, or even painful. Days pass without answers. Prayers appear to linger in silence. Dreams remain suspended between hope and fulfillment. In those moments, it is easy to believe that nothing is changing. Yet the greatest mistake a person can make is assuming that God's work is limited to what human eyes can see. Much of life operates beneath the surface. The roots of a great tree develop long before its branches reach toward the sky. The foundations of a magnificent building are laid before anyone admires its beauty. The artist imagines the masterpiece before the first brush touches the canvas. In the same way, God's greatest preparations often occur long before their results become visible. What appears to be inactivity is frequently divine activity hidden from view. Human beings naturally crave evidence. We want to see progress. We want confirmation. We want signs that our prayers are producing results. Yet God often asks us to trust Him in seasons when visible evidence is scarce, not because He enjoys withholding answers, but because faith grows strongest when it learns to rely upon His character rather than immediate circumstances. There is a tendency in every heart to interpret silence as absence. When prayers seem unanswered, people often wonder whether heaven has forgotten them. They look at their challenges and conclude that God must be distant. Yet silence does not prove absence. The sun continues to exist even when hidden by clouds. The roots continue growing even when hidden beneath the soil. The architect continues building even when the structure is incomplete. Likewise, God continues working even when His activity cannot be immediately observed. Many of the greatest blessings in life require preparation. A person may pray for influence without realizing that character must first be strengthened. Another may pray for opportunity without understanding that wisdom must first be developed. Someone may ask for a greater future while God is preparing the foundation necessary to sustain it. Preparation often feels slower than we prefer. We live in a world obsessed with speed. We expect instant communication, instant information, and instant results. But God's purposes are not governed by human impatience. He is concerned not merely with delivering blessings, but with preparing people to receive them. Imagine receiving every answer immediately. Imagine obtaining every opportunity before learning the lessons required to handle it wisely. Many blessings would become burdens. Many opportunities would become sources of confusion. Many victories would be short-lived because the foundation beneath them would be too weak to sustain them. God understands what we often overlook. He sees not only the prayer, but the future connected to the prayer. He sees not only the opportunity, but the responsibility attached to it. He sees not only the blessing, but the preparation necessary to steward it. This is why delays should never be interpreted as denials. A gardener does not plant a seed and demand fruit the next morning. Growth requires time. Development requires patience. Preparation requires process. The seed must first establish roots before it can produce a harvest. The same truth applies spiritually. Every season contains lessons. Every challenge contains opportunities for growth. Every delay contains hidden preparation. Even the struggles that seem most frustrating may be serving purposes beyond present understanding. Many people discover this only when they look backward. At the time, the journey appeared confusing. The obstacles seemed unnecessary. The waiting felt endless. Yet years later, they recognized that the very circumstances they questioned were shaping them for opportunities they could not yet imagine. The delay strengthened their patience. The challenge deepened their faith. The disappointment increased their wisdom. The struggle built their character. Nothing was wasted. God possesses an extraordinary ability to use every circumstance for a greater purpose. He can transform setbacks into stepping stones. He can use disappointments as preparation. He can turn apparent detours into pathways towards something better than originally expected. This perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, "Why is nothing happening?" a person begins asking, "What might God be preparing?" Instead of focusing solely on what is missing, they begin appreciating what is being developed. Instead of measuring progress only by visible results, they begin trusting the unseen work of God. Faith flourishes in this environment, not because every question has been answered, not because every obstacle has disappeared, but because trust shifts from circumstances to God's character. The remarkable truth is that God's plans often exceed human expectations. What He prepares frequently surpasses what people originally imagined. The door He opens may lead somewhere better than the door they wanted. The opportunity He provides may exceed the one they requested. The future He creates may be greater than the future they envisioned. This is why believers are called to persevere. Not because the road is always easy, not because the answers arrive quickly, but because God remains faithful throughout every season. When heaven seems silent, He is still working. When progress appears invisible, He is still preparing. When circumstances appear unchanged, He is still arranging events according to His purpose. The story is never defined by one difficult chapter. The future is never determined by one season of waiting. The God who began the work continues the work even when human eyes cannot detect His movement. Somewhere beyond your present understanding, doors are being prepared. Opportunities are being arranged. Strength is being developed. Wisdom is being formed. Circumstances are being aligned. What seems ordinary today may one day reveal itself as the beginning of something extraordinary. And when the appointed moment arrives, you will discover that what appeared to be silence was actually preparation. What appeared to be delay was actually wisdom. And what appeared to be an ending was only the beginning of something far greater than you ever imagined. There are seasons in life that seem to move more slowly than we would prefer. The prayers have been spoken, the effort has been given, and the dream remains alive within the heart, yet the answer appears delayed. During such moments, many people assume they are standing still. They believe that because nothing dramatic is happening around them, nothing important is happening within them. But God's perspective on waiting is very different from ours. What we often call delay, God often calls preparation. The waiting season is not an interruption of God's plan. It is part of God's plan. It is the workshop where character is formed. Faith is strengthened, wisdom is developed, and strength is built. The very season that feels most frustrating may be the season accomplishing the greatest work within your life. Human nature prefers quick results. We enjoy immediate answers and visible progress. We feel comfortable when we can clearly see where we are going and how everything will unfold. Waiting removes that comfort. It forces us to trust when we cannot see. It challenges us to believe when evidence seems limited. It invites us to depend on God rather than our own understanding. This is one of the reasons waiting is so valuable. Faith that has never been tested remains shallow. Trust that has never faced uncertainty remains fragile. Strength that has never encountered resistance remains unproven. Just as muscles grow through resistance, spiritual maturity often grows through seasons of waiting. Consider a craftsman shaping a piece of wood into something beautiful. The finished product attracts admiration, But few people appreciate the careful work that took place beforehand. Every cut, every adjustment, and every refinement contributed to the final result. Without the process, the masterpiece would never exist. The same principle applies to our lives. God is often shaping us during seasons when we feel forgotten. He is refining attitudes, strengthening convictions, teaching patience, and building endurance. The process may feel slow, but it is never meaningless. Many people focus entirely on where they want to go, while overlooking who they need to become. Yet God is deeply concerned about both. A blessing without wisdom can become a burden. Successes without character can become destructive. Influence without humility can become dangerous. Opportunity without preparation can become overwhelming. Because God loves His people, He often prepares them before He promotes them. The waiting season serves this purpose. It develops qualities that cannot be produced through comfort alone. Patience grows when answers take time. Endurance develops when challenges persist. Trust deepens when circumstances remain uncertain. Courage strengthens when fear attempts to take control. These qualities become invaluable later in life. The person who learns patience during waiting will possess stability during success. The person who learns trust during uncertainty will possess confidence during future challenges. The person who learns perseverance during delay will possess resilience when greater responsibilities arrive. Nothing learned during God's preparation is ever wasted. Sometimes people mistakenly believe that their waiting season is empty. They look at their circumstances and see no visible progress. Yet beneath the surface, transformation is taking place. The roots are growing deeper. The foundation is becoming stronger. The heart is becoming more prepared for what lies ahead. A tree with shallow roots may grow quickly, but it struggles when storms arrive. A tree with deep roots can withstand powerful winds, because strength was developed long before the storm appeared. Likewise, God often uses waiting to deepen spiritual roots. The lessons learned during these seasons become sources of stability for years to come. Looking back, many people discover that their greatest growth occurred during periods they once considered disappointing. At the time, they wished the season would end. Later, they realized that the very experiences they wanted to escape were preparing them for blessings they could not yet imagine. The waiting season also teaches perspective. It reminds us that life is not solely about achieving goals. It is about becoming the people God created us to be. Destinations matter, but transformation matters even more. God is not merely interested in changing circumstances. He is interested in changing hearts. This distinction is important because circumstances can change quickly. Character develops gradually. Success may arrive overnight, but wisdom often requires years. Opportunities may appear suddenly, but readiness is usually cultivated through a process. That process often includes waiting. There are moments when God says not yet, because He sees something we do not see. He understands timing in ways we cannot understand. He recognizes dangers we cannot recognize. He sees opportunities that have not yet appeared. What feels like delay may actually be protection. What feels like frustration may actually be preparation. What feels like standing still may actually be progress occurring beneath the surface. The remarkable thing about God is that He never wastes a season. Every challenge, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, and every moment of uncertainty can become part of His greater purpose. Even mistakes can become lessons. Even setbacks can become preparation. Even struggles can become sources of strength. God possesses the ability to weave all these experiences together into something meaningful. This truth changes how we view waiting. Instead of seeing it as punishment, we begin seeing it as preparation. Instead of viewing it as an obstacle, we recognize it as an opportunity. Instead of becoming discouraged, we become expectant. For if God is preparing us, then preparation must be leading somewhere. The waiting season is never the final destination. It is a bridge between where you are and where God is leading you. It is the training ground before greater assignments. It is the foundation before greater construction. It is the root system before greater growth. Therefore, do not despise the season you are in. Do not assume that because visible progress seems slow, meaningful progress is absent. Trust that God is working. Trust that He is preparing. Trust that every lesson, every challenge, and every act of faith is contributing to a future that will one day make sense. The God who planted the dream within your heart has not forgotten it. The God who called you forward has not abandoned the journey. The God who began the work is still completing it, even now, in ways you may not yet understand. And when the season of preparation finally gives way to the season of fulfillment, you will discover that every moment of waiting served a purpose far greater than you could have imagined. Every person faces moments when two voices compete for attention within the heart. One voice speaks the language of fear, the other speaks the language of faith. These voices do not merely influence emotions. They shape decisions, determine perspectives, and often influence the direction of an entire life. Fear and faith both look toward the future, but they interpret it differently. Fear studies uncertainty and assumes the worst. Faith looks at uncertainty and trusts God with what it cannot understand. Fear asks, what if everything falls apart? Faith asks, what if God is already working everything together for good? The difference may seem small at first, but its consequences are enormous. Fear has a powerful way of capturing attention. It magnifies obstacles until they appear overwhelming. It focuses on limitations rather than possibilities. It whispers that challenges are too large, resources are too small, and circumstances are too difficult. Fear convinces people that their present situation is permanent and their future is already decided. Many dreams have been abandoned because fear spoke louder than faith. Many opportunities have been missed because fear created hesitation. Many blessings have remained unopened because fear persuaded someone to remain where it felt safe rather than move where God was leading. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. It presents caution as certainty and doubt as realism. It studies every possible failure and treats those possibilities as inevitable outcomes. Yet fear possesses one fatal flaw. It evaluates circumstances without fully considering God. Faith begins where fear ends. Faith does not deny reality. It does not pretend difficulties do not exist. It does not ignore challenges or refuse to acknowledge pain. Genuine faith sees every obstacle clearly, yet chooses to believe that God remains greater than the obstacle. A person of faith may still recognize the storm, but they also remember who controls the wind. They may acknowledge the mountain, but they also remember who created the mountain. They may face uncertainty, but they trust the one who already sees the future. This perspective changes everything. When fear dominates a person's thinking, every challenge becomes larger than life. The future appears dark. Possibilities seem distant. Hope begins to weaken. Eventually, fear convinces people to stop expecting good things. Faith produces the opposite effect. Faith creates expectation. Faith creates courage. Faith creates perseverance. Faith reminds the heart that present circumstances are not the final chapter of the story. One of the greatest truths about faith is that it often grows strongest during difficult seasons. When everything is comfortable, trust remains largely untested. But when answers seem delayed and circumstances remain uncertain, faith develops deeper roots. A tree growing in perfect conditions may appear strong, but trees exposed to wind often develop stronger root systems. The resistance itself contributes to their stability. Likewise, life's challenges often strengthen faith in ways comfort never could. Many people assume that strong faith means never experiencing fear, but courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward despite fear. Faith is not the elimination of uncertainty. Faith is the decision to trust God in the middle of uncertainty. Even the most faithful individuals encounter moments of doubt. The difference is that they refuse to allow doubt to become their master. They acknowledge fear without surrendering to it. They recognize challenges without being controlled by them. They continue moving forward because their confidence rests not in themselves, but in God. This distinction is crucial. If faith depended upon perfect circumstances, very few people would ever experience it. Life inevitably contains unanswered questions, unexpected setbacks, and uncertain outcomes. Yet faith thrives precisely because it does not depend upon certainty. It depends upon trust. Trusting God means believing that His wisdom exceeds your understanding. It means believing that His timing is better than your impatience. It means believing that His power is greater than your limitations. It means believing that His plans extend beyond your current perspective. Fear narrows vision. Faith expands it. Fear focuses attention on immediate problems. Faith focuses attention on eternal truths. Fear sees closed doors and assumes defeat. Faith sees closed doors and trusts that God knows which doors should remain closed and which doors will eventually open. Fear creates paralysis. Faith inspires movement. Many of the greatest moments in life occur when people choose faith despite uncertainty. They take a step before seeing the entire path. They trust before receiving every answer. They obey before understanding every detail. This is how breakthroughs often begin, not with complete certainty, not with perfect conditions, but with a simple decision to trust God more than fear. The remarkable thing about fear is that it often predicts disasters that never happen. It fills the mind with imagined futures and worst-case scenarios. It consumes energy preparing for problems that may never exist. Faith frees people from this burden. Faith allows them to focus on the present, while trusting God with the future. Faith replaces anxiety with peace, not because every problem has disappeared, but because confidence has shifted from circumstances to God's faithfulness. The God who guided you through previous challenges has not changed. The God who provided in past difficulties remains capable of providing again. The God who opened doors before remains capable of opening new doors. The God who sustained you yesterday remains able to sustain you tomorrow. Fear forgets these truths. Faith remembers them. And remembering them changes how you walk through life. Instead of being driven by worry, you become guided by trust. Instead of being controlled by uncertainty, you become strengthened by hope. Instead of retreating from challenges, you begin facing them with confidence. Not confidence in your own abilities alone, but confidence in the God who remains sovereign over every detail of your life. This confidence becomes a source of strength when circumstances seem unstable. It provides peace when answers seem distant. It produces perseverance when progress appears slow. For faith understands something fear never can. God is already present in the future you are worried about. He has already seen every challenge. He already knows every obstacle. He already understands every question. and He is already working in ways you cannot yet see. Therefore, refuse to allow fear to become the author of your expectations. Refuse to let anxiety dictate your decisions. Refuse to measure God's power by the size of your problems. Instead, choose faith, choose trust, choose hope, choose confidence. For the pathway to every promise, every breakthrough, and every blessing God has prepared is walked by those who decide that faith will speak louder than fear. There comes a moment in every difficult season when hope begins to ask a question. Will anything ever change? It is a question born from waiting, strengthened by disappointment, and repeated by circumstances that seem determined to remain the same. The longer the struggle continues, the easier it becomes to believe that the present reality is permanent. Yet some of the greatest transformations in life begin precisely when people are most tempted to lose hope. Human beings naturally evaluate their future based on what they currently see. If opportunities appear scarce, they assume scarcity will continue. If progress seems slow, they assume advancement is unlikely. If the road is difficult today, they often expect tomorrow to be equally difficult. But history repeatedly demonstrates that the most significant breakthroughs often arrive unexpectedly. A single moment can change the direction of years. One opportunity can alter a future. One answer can resolve a season of questions. One breakthrough can transform what once appeared impossible. This is why it is dangerous to judge tomorrow solely by today's circumstances. God is not limited by what currently exists. He is not restricted by human expectations, visible resources, or present conditions. He possesses the ability to create opportunities where none seem available, provide solutions where none appear possible, and open doors that no human effort could unlock. The challenge is that God's preparation often occurs long before His provision becomes visible. People frequently focus on what they do not have, while God is preparing what they cannot yet see. The breakthrough begins long before the breakthrough appears. Seeds are planted before harvests emerge. Foundations are built before buildings rise. Preparations are completed before celebrations begin. Likewise, God often works behind the scenes, arranging circumstances in ways that remain hidden until the appointed moment arrives. This hidden preparation can be difficult to appreciate while it is happening. When answers seem delayed, people often become discouraged. They wonder whether their prayers matter. They question whether their efforts have meaning. They worry that the future will simply resemble the present, yet God's plans are rarely confined to present realities. He specializes in doing unexpected things through unexpected means at unexpected times. Many of life's greatest testimonies begin with situations that seemed hopeless. People look back and realize that what appeared to be an ending was actually a beginning. What seemed like failure became redirection. What looked like loss became preparation for something greater. The remarkable truth is that God can use every circumstance for His purposes. The disappointment that weakened your confidence may become the experience that strengthens your wisdom. The delay that tested your patience may become the preparation that protects your future. The struggle that challenged your faith may become the testimony that inspires others. Nothing is beyond God's ability to redeem. This is why believers are called to maintain hope, even during difficult seasons. Hope is not denial. Hope is not pretending that challenges do not exist. Hope is the confidence that God remains active despite challenges. Hope believes that today's limitations do not define tomorrow's possibilities. Hope understands that God's story is often larger than the chapter currently being lived. When people lose hope, they stop expecting good things. They settle for survival instead of believing for breakthrough. They become comfortable with discouragement because disappointment feels safer than expectation. But faith refuses to accept this perspective. Faith continues looking forward. Faith continues believing. Faith continues trusting, not because every answer has arrived, but because God remains faithful whether answer visible or not. There is a powerful difference between waiting without hope and waiting with expectation. Waiting without hope feels like imprisonment. Waiting with expectation feels like preparation. The circumstances may appear identical, but the mindset changes everything. A person who expects breakthrough views challenges differently. They recognize that temporary setbacks are not permanent conclusions. They understand that delays do not erase promises. They realize that silence does not mean abandonment. Instead of focusing entirely on obstacles, they begin watching for opportunities. Instead of dwelling exclusively on problems, they begin anticipating solutions. Instead of surrendering to discouragement, they continue moving forward with confidence. This confidence is rooted in the character of God. The same God who created possibilities from impossibilities in the past remains capable of doing so today. The same God who provided when resources were limited remains capable of providing again. The same God who guided people through uncertainty remains capable of guiding you. His power has not diminished. His wisdom has not weakened. His faithfulness has not changed. Therefore, your breakthrough should never be measured by current circumstances. The breakthrough may already be developing beyond your awareness. Conversations may be taking place that will affect your future. Opportunities may be forming that you have not yet discovered. Doors may be opening that you cannot yet see. And wages may be approaching faster than you realize. God often works in ways that become visible only when the timing is right. Until that moment arrives, your responsibility is not to understand everything. Your responsibility is to remain faithful. Continue trusting, continue believing, continue obeying, continue expecting, for every season has an expiration date. Every storm eventually passes. Every night eventually gives way to morning. Every waiting period eventually reaches its appointed conclusion. And when God's timing arrives, the breakthrough often exceeds what people originally imagined. The blessing may be greater than the request. The opportunity may be larger than the dream. The restoration may surpass the loss. The answer may reveal a wisdom that could never have been understood during the waiting season. One day, you will look back and recognize that God was working, even when nothing seemed to change. You will see that every challenge contributed to your growth. Every delay contributed to your preparation. Every act of faith contributed to your breakthrough. The very season that tempted you to quit may become the season you thank God for most, because it was preparing you for a future greater than anything you could have imagined. And when that future arrives, you will understand that God's timing was never late. His promises were never forgotten, and His plans were always moving toward a breakthrough far bigger than you could see.